for city news and theater facts, behind the scenes, behind the acts, interviews with artists and staff will make you think and even laugh some weeks. City Speaks, City Speaks, City Speaks.
Hello, and welcome to City Speaks Live. I'm your host, Claire Drobot, Associate Artistic Director at City Theater, and I am joining you from my dining room in Bloomfield today. We are launching back into our now Zoomcast to take you behind the scenes at City Theater, and in this case, delve into one of our digital productions that we've been hard at work on this fall. Starting December 4th, you will be able to stream the digital production of Claws Out, a holiday drag musical. It's the world premiere that was originally slated to be on City's main stage, but as we are not able to gather in person, we have created a green screen extravaganza for our audiences. The musical features a book by Monteze Freeland and Schwa Potter, lyrics by Schwa Potter and Douglas Levine, and music by Douglas Levine, co-directed by Monteze Freeland and Mark Masterson, and starring Monteze Freeland and Schwa Potter. So today I am so lucky to be joined by two of our brilliant creative team members, wearer of many hats, Monteze Freeland, who's also my colleague and the associate producer at City, and our composer and Carol Claus performer, Doug Levine. So welcome to the show, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
Good to see your faces.
You too, Claire. I don't see you often enough.
That was not scripted at all. We promise for audiences. So I'm wondering, actually, to kind of kick us off today, Monteze, if for viewers, since this is a brand new drag musical, if you can just share a little bit about what they have to look forward to in Claws Out.
All right, picture it. The North Pole, 2020. And Rachel Claus, the current Mrs. Claus, who has turned the North Pole into her own little spa, disco, bar area. I mean, she has really turned it into a party. And there's a knock on the door, and there is a new Mrs. Claus ready to come in and rescue Christmas because she has been plucked from many candidates to get the place in order. And her name is Roberta. So Rachel and Roberta have this, basically this contention between them because they both want the job. And we discovered that there is a clause that says that they can compete in the North Pole Sleigh Competition, which is kind of close to a little drag reality show we may all know, and for the title of Mrs. Claus. And so they go head to head in the categories of rapping, baking, decorating, and caroling to see who will become the new Mrs. Claus. And it's a musical. So
it is extra exciting. It is clauses on clauses on clauses.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, to for audiences who may have seen Santa's TED Talk, which Schwa Potter, who's kind of the third member of this trio, performed in and you directed last season. Can you talk a little bit about, where the inspiration for this play came from and how it evolved from, a twinkle in your eyes to what we'll be able to see in December?
Yeah, so my amazing writing partner, scene partner, colleague, we're not drinking partners because of the Rona, but we will be.
But soon.
Schwa Potter, who plays Rachel Claus. And last year, Schwa played Rachel in a one-person cabaret, one act that opened. It was one act of its own, and then there was intermission, and then Schwa did Santaland Diaries, another one-person show. So he really showed the city that he is so equipped to just carry a piece and has the energy and entertainment in his fingers to just make it as magical as possible. And so City Theater wanted to continue on that ride and bring Rachel back. And so Schwa, we needed someone to spar with Schwa, but Rachel was sort of born out of just us playing around and saying, like, who would be the most, I guess, exciting Mrs. Claus, and why not a Jewish woman from Queens who was an aspiring actress, and after a bad audition for the nanny, she meets Santa Claus in a little cafe.
And it was happily ever after until Roberta arrives. But as we've mentioned, this is also a musical, so there's woven through. I think there are about 20 songs or musical numbers, I should say, in the show. So add in brilliant composer Doug Levine. How did you join the team, and talk a little bit about how the music for the show evolved?
First of all, I got to say, Monteze, that is such a brilliant and entertaining synopsis of the show. I would almost buy a ticket just to hear you describe the show. So, viewers, if you enjoyed Monteze just talking about the show, you really got to watch it now, and you'll be even more impressed. How did I get involved? I need to mention that I've known Schwa and Monteze since their college days, and I met them. We won't say, for your sake and mine, how many years ago it was that I got to work with both of them as a music director when they were undergrads at Point Park. And that's when I first became familiar with their distinctive and substantial talents. So flash forward to about a little more than a year ago, just a little more than a year ago, I'd say in October of 2019, I did a little concert in Pittsburgh in which I kind of collected a lot of musical theater stuff that I'd written over about 20 years. And I knew that Schwa was in town. So I contacted Schwa to participate in this concert. And that was kind of reconnecting with him for the first time since I'd worked with him as a student. And he helped me out with that concert. And I think that sort of gave him the glimmer of wanting to contact me about this piece, about Claws Out. I subsequently went and saw Schwa and Monteze's work at City Theater in the one-man show that Monteze directed and Schwa starred in. And then he said, remember that piece? You know, he sent me an email. Remember that thing I was talking about? Well, here's your first lyric. And, you know, the first lyric arrived in my email. And so I threw down a little melody and it all kind of started there. And I think the first song that we wrote was the opening number, Schwa's I'm Mrs. Claus, I think that song is called. And then it just kind of went from there. And then I started writing a song for Monteze, and then I started writing a song for both Schwa and Monteze. And you know, by and by, you kind of accumulate half a show. Mm-hmm. And then you sort of move on from there, and eventually you have a complete draft. And the amazing thing is how quickly it happened. Mm-hmm. You know, I've been writing musicals for some time, but I've never put together from soup to nuts a project quite frankly, this quickly and with such a consistent level of not to pat myself on the back, but maybe to pat all three of us on the back, you know, with such a consistent level of confident material, you know, because mm-hmm. I think we all knew mm-hmm. once City Theater threw the switch on this thing actually happening, that, you know, we wouldn't have a lot of chances to cut songs and start over again, you know?
Right.
So True. We were really firing on an amazing number of cylinders throughout that, about like 8 months?
Yeah. Yeah, mm-hmm. I think Mark, we had a little event for donors last night, and Mark was saying, I mean, that's 8 months to write a full-length musical. This, you know, runs like 75, 80 minutes. I mean, that's unheard of. Normally it takes 3 or 4 years to develop a musical. And I'm wondering, you know, Monteze, this is very evident, I think, in your description, but if you can both talk a little bit about kind of the tonality of the piece, like the nods to cabaret and to camp and the different kind of genres that the music leans into. I think there's just like it was just so joyful, like being part of rehearsals and even watching this as we're into the editing process. So can you talk a little bit about kind of the stylistic leanings of what created the foundations for Claws Out?
Sure. Typically when I do write, I typically start from a place of absurdity and fun and comedy. And then, you know, if it has to be dramatic, then I'll write something dramatic. But I think we have enough of that in the world, you know, so.
Yes.
And I am a child of Carol Burnett and Jennifer Lewis and all the other clown actors that are out there. So I like just having fun. And so when it came to this, and I said, okay, these are drag queens. And, you know, it's weird. People have been asking, like, are you playing drag queens? Or are you playing women? And so it's like, we're playing women, but it's kind of like Edna in Hairspray. It's always played by a man. Or Mary Sunshine mm-hmm. in Chicago, always played by a man. You know, so it's kind of like one of those roles. but the style of it is really wacky. It goes from spit takes and flatulence jokes to some pretty shady and coarse
Hmm.
language toward one another that you hear in drag clubs. That I think that using the medium of like cabaret and camp, but also drag, allows you
Hmm.
to say anything. And Schwa even told me a story about how when I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this, but about how he was in New York and he started, performing solo shows, that there were things that he would say as himself that wouldn't get a laugh, but the second he would get dressed up and he said
Hmm.
that same line as his performance character, it would knock him dead. And so it's something about the idea of a man in drag which holds power in that room to be able to just kind of say whatever. And I haven't been to a lot of drag shows. I've been to some, and like the ones I've gone to, I'm always like shocked at what they can get away with.
Right.
They come up and lick you on the face, free
There
rolling.
was no licking, no licking in the time of Corona in this music.
No, no. But that's the style, and I'm glad you asked that because I really hope that the show, of course, reaches city theaters. Wonderful audience, and and an audience who is stuck with city theater through all of this for sure.
Hmm.
But I'm also hoping to reach a new audience and a broader audience as well, of younger people, of people in the LGBTQ plus community, of people who are allies, and and to just have some fun, because this a lot of the jokes and things like that are written for those communities. We tried to keep them within the story so they worked even if you didn't get what it was.
Hmm.
But there are just some little chestnuts that are in there that are for certain demographics, certain types of people that when they hear it, hopefully they'll just, giggle and laugh. And, so.
No, those Easter eggs are so great. And I should also say, we've had the chance to collaborate on working with a couple of community partners to highlight organizations in town that are supporting the LGBTQ plus community in Pittsburgh. So we'll get to some live event teasers later, but we're excited to highlight the work of PGH Equality Center, True T PGH, and Proud Haven as well, as part of this process, so it connects to our community. And Doug, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on the music, because this sort of spans a number of genres. It's definitely rooted in cabaret, but we have some leanings to rock, some leanings to country, a little bit of everything. How did that influence your writing process?
Yeah, I mean, I love the chance to do that. I love the chance to have a piece that will kind of naturally or seamlessly traverse a bunch of different styles. And um, so I kind of I felt free to be nudged in a certain direction, and I mean, Montez busts through the door and starts singing a salsa tune. I mean, it just made sense at the time, so I went with it. And then he fortunately made it work with some nice choreography. I didn't tell you, Montez, how impressed I was with your there's some little samba footwork in there. I
Thank
like
you,
it.
God. I think Roberta takes Zumba classes, so I think
I
that
could
was always
so
my
see.
backstory, is that she takes Zumba, so that's what those moves are from.
Nice. But there's the song that comes after that sort of it feels like kind of a laid back jazzy tune, and there's also a couple of little sort of klezmery sounding moments in the show,
Hmm.
because Rachel Claus is originally a nice Jewish girl from Queens, New York, and so there was sort of a few moments where I'm like, oh, we need to have a little klezmery sounding old world music
Mhm.
for just a
Yeah.
few seconds, and some people will pick up on that, and some won't, but it'll be in the mix. So that was a huge part of what made the music, the writing the music, so much fun for me
Hmm.
in this show.
Sure. And I mean, obviously we're on Zoom right now. I mean, I think the situation of COVID and how it's affected our entire country, but particularly the performing arts community, I mean, it's changed our entire industry. So this was initially slated to be on stage in person, and knock on wood, 2021 we'll be back in person. But I'm wondering if you can both talk a little bit about what was it like translating this into a digital production, and what can audiences expect to see versus what they would see on stage.
Mm. Yeah, uh, translating once we realized, like Doug said, once we realized like what it had to be and how it had to be, we didn't have a lot of time. And
That's
so
true.
it was
Ambitious producing timelines.
yes, exactly. And so going in and like really looking at what needed to be changed. Like there was one moment in Act Two in which there's, as I said before, there's a cook-off. And in that moment, what it originally was like both Rachel and I had our own little cooking segment, sort of like a la Paula Dean and Rachel Ray, something of that nature. And so we were, that's what it would be on stage, but that was written so that one of us could go sit down for a second and act, in the second act for about 3 minutes, and then the other one could sit down for another 3 minutes so that we could have a break. And Mark Masterson, co-director, said, I wonder if that works only for the stage. How can we make this work for the screen? And so we turned those two monologue sections into basically like a spoof of the Great British Bake Off and other shows that you see, so that we live within the medium of film and digital content and TV and still keep the storyline. So that was one example of a change that was made, I think, for the better, and it may stay in for, the stage production, or it may just live in the digital production, who knows? But it was really cool to see what we could adapt, to see what could work. Digital allows for the magic in the show to work. I don't know how we were going to do this magic on stage, but now we can do it with the green screen.
And then for viewers who aren't familiar with a green screen, can you both just talk a little bit about what that process was like? And then Doug, I'd love for you to share, how do you do a musical on green screen, because it's a very different process than performing on stage live.
Right. The seeds of this show, we might not have been clear about the fact that when we started writing the show, we thought we were writing it for the stage. We started writing before the pandemic, and then when we went into lockdown is when we were contacted by the amazingly kind folks at City Theater, Claire and Mark and company, with the opportunity to continue writing and then turn it into a film, an opportunity which I'd be remiss if I didn't just comment on how grateful I was, and I'm sure everybody involved was, to have. I mean, we all had so many colleagues and friends who were scrambling to figure out, how they were going to pay the bills. So to have had this opportunity was amazing. And then, yeah, like Monteze said, there were so many interesting ways that we shifted the show or tightened it in a way to film. Once we realized what the strengths were, what the things were that we were able to do that we didn't have to worry about because we weren't going to be on stage. Musically, well, there was no longer going to be a live band on stage at City Theater. We needed to pre-record all of the songs, and that entailed me creating backing tracks, which then we overdubbed the vocals, so that when we filmed in front of the green screen, Monteze and Schwa are lip syncing on top of the backing track, which was playing in the room. The nice coincidence about that is that lip syncing is kind of common parlance in the drag world, is it not, Monteze?
Yes, yes.
However, it should be pointed out that the lip syncing that's done in Claws Out is so brilliant that I think most people won't even realize it.
So we're giving away trade secrets.
Oh, we're giving away trade secrets now.
Yes, no trade secrets.
Yeah, but it wasn't just a question of filming in front of the green screen. It was a question of filming in front of the green screen during a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So that added a whole nother layer of kind of safety considerations and technical things that we wouldn't have needed to worry about otherwise.
And
And that
for
green,
viewers at home, or listeners, what we're talking about, and when you're talking about a green screen, is literally there's a green backdrop. All of everything in this world is green except for the furniture pieces that we see, and so they'll all be digitally superimposed. The background of the cabin and the eventorium that we eventually move into are all being digitally created elsewhere. But Montez, what is that like as a performer to be living in a sea of green? I'm sure you're sick of, you never want to see uh, chroma key again.
no, look, hey, if chroma key means, some work and some money, I'll see chroma key all day long. But no, it was such a different experience because, well, I've done little things in front of green screens. Like I had a little web series show that I sat in front of a green screen, but really back there was just like said my name, and so it was very stationary. But in this, it's odd because you have little markers. Like even for me on stage, like you may not have a little spike take, but I know like, okay, that groove right there, I'm always going to hit that for this moment. You find little moments
Hmm.
on the stage that kind of guide you to where you need to be. When everything is green, it's really hard to kind of know
The
where,
void.
yeah, where you are. And it's crazy because while we recorded at WQED, we visited another place that was a huge green screen room. And I thought it would be great. I cannot imagine being in there for 4 days because I think our eyes would go crazy. But performing in front of it, I think was the one thing about this medium is that when you're doing a play or on stage, you really know what it's going to look like.
Hmm.
The only thing that usually comes as a surprise to me when I'm directing or in a show, it's just the lights. The lights always kind of be like, oh, that's what that can do. And but typically you know what the set is going to look like. You know what you're
Hmm.
working with, at least, before you get in front of an audience. But in a way, we don't fully know what this is going to look like until it's done. And so that's the surprise in it. But it's also that waiting, it feels like Christmas
Hmm.
as we keep waiting for the presents to come in of the rough cuts.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, we've all learned so many new skills, but I just wanted to take a moment to give a shout out to the team who has helped create this. So our videographer Mickey Miller of Human Habits, our media designer and editor Kate Hevner, who's in fact creating those backgrounds that you were talking about, and then of course the amazing Tony Ferreri, who's our props designer, and actually all of the physical things that you do see that gave you that grounding in the sea of green, our sound designer, Howard Patterson, and sound and media engineer, Brad Peterson, our production coordinator, Ryan Look, and of course, our costume designer, Madison Hack. I'm just so excited for everyone to see you as Roberta, Schwa as Rachel, and Doug, you as Carol Claus. You know what? I was amazed by the process of how long it took to like get into character. So, and what is that like? Can you walk audiences through the process to know just how much work went into building these characters and these long filming days?
Yeah, so our days typically started, we went from like 9 to 9 or something like that. But we started at 9 o'clock. I was in the makeup chair, and we would do most of the makeup at City Theater, primarily just, focusing on gluing my eyebrows down and covering them in the eye makeup and a little contour and so forth. And then I would drive from City Theater to WQED, like, with the hoodie on, trying not to be caught because it's 10:30 in the morning. I have on a half a beat face and nails at the time, so that was fun. And then we would finish the makeup at the studio, and my amazing friend and makeup artist True Verrett Fleming uh, turned me into somebody who I can only imagine, only dream of looking like, everything. Um, and Schwa, of course, is an amazing artist who gave us tips as well, did his
Hmm.
own makeup, who is much faster than we were. So I was always late because it was about 2.5 hours, about 2.5 hours of getting it done, and then getting into the body because there were about at least 5 to 7 layers, depending on the act or the
Hmm.
part of the show, that I had on, from fake body parts to just cinching things in. And so it was a full production happening under those costumes. But yeah, but it took about 2.5 hours or so before we actually hit the green screen and went at it.
It was a marathon, but I think the audiences will just be blown away by the results because you all looked amazing. You as well, Doug, in your cameo in
Oh,
Act Two.
oh,
You can't wait.
please.
Something to look out for.
My makeup did not take 2.5 hours. Carol Claus, who is the house accompanist of the North Pole, kind of grew out of the fact that, if we did the show live at City, I'd be there with a band, at the very least,
Mhm.
with a keyboard and maybe a drummer. And typically I think in keeping at City, that you'd see these musicians, they'd be in the room, and they really should be. So the character was kind of created around the fact that there'd be a band in the room doing the
Mhm.
show. And then it kind of just sort of went along when it transformed into a film, and Mark Masterson kind of pushed the fact that, well, if you were going to be on stage, you could be in the film, right, Doug? Okay, that's decided. And I was like, isn't there a version where Carol Claus isn't on camera? But no, we didn't do that version. But it's brief. It's brief. Hopefully it's humorous, and we move on to the real camera talent.
Well, I'd love to finish us off on a fun note. Roberta and Rachel compete in a holiday skills competition to grab the crown of Mrs. Claus, and I'm wondering if you had a holiday skill, what would it be? What is your special talent for the holiday showcase?
Wow. A special holiday skill, probably avoiding people at the holidays.
That's
I
a skill, though.
it is because people won't let you do it, but I spend holidays alone. I prefer it. And that is my special holidays. I get away. You can't find me. Yep, that's what I do.
Friends with the do not disturb on your email and cell phone. I like it. How about you, Doug? You have a holiday skill?
My special holiday skill, man. You've kind of thrown me for a loop.
Oh, I stumped you.
when we were kids, we would have these annual dreidel competitions. My brothers, especially my older brother, was very competitive, and he rubbed my nose in the fact that he could spin a dreidel longer than me, until we were almost teenagers.
Wow.
So I guess my skill would be to go back in time and just smoke.
Best him.
Just burn him.
Maybe in Claus Out 2, the dreidel spinning will come into play.
That's obligatory.
Well, but before we leave, we've talked about how this is a digital streaming show. But for those of you who miss the chance to gather in the City Theater lobby, we can't do that in person, but we have crafted some live events that Monteze and Schwa will be hosting. So Monteze, I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about what do folks have to look forward to. We actually have 4 events that'll be a chance to meet and talk with patrons, and then view a screening of the show.
Yes, I say look forward to having some fun. I mean, we're gonna have a holiday party because we're gonna celebrate all the holidays. We're gonna have a holiday party for about a half hour before you view the performance, and it'll be on the Saturdays in December. And we're all gonna come on to Zoom, probably have some fun, play some games, maybe sing along to some karaoke tracks. We might see, ask us to show you decorations and choose who has the best decorations, all kinds of fun stuff. And I guess I should say that if you do purchase a ticket to these events, that you'll receive something special that will in the mail that will help make this event even more fun and that we can all enjoy together. So there's Saturdays in December, which I think that couldn't be better because who doesn't like to have fun on Saturdays, and we can't go anywhere. So we might as well just party in the house.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
bring your pod and a couple of cocktails and enjoy.
Fun. I will be there. We won't be in drag, at least I won't, but we will be there. And we will, have conversations with everyone. I'm sure we'll tell a lot of jokes, and then we'll watch the show together, have fun in the chat, and then maybe, say goodbye at the end of it in a fun way. So come have fun with us this December. We're really, I'm looking forward to that because, that's the one thing that we really truly miss. It's a
Hmm.
comedy, and it's crazy because we're doing this comedy and we don't have that audience. I mean, the staff was amazing, but y'all
Yeah,
saw
it's
the
not the
show
same.
about 85 times, so but we really, really, really do miss the audience. And I know the audience misses us,
Hmm.
meaning live theater. And so this would be a great opportunity to just connect with audiences, to feel their energy, to really say, thank you for all that you give us, because I feel as though audiences give us equally what we give to them.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Doug and Montez, just thank you so much for joining me today to share a little window into the show. Claws Out, a holiday drag musical, will be streaming December 4th through January 10th. Tickets start at just $15 and are available now at City Theater Company, and that's theater with an RE.org. Our theme song is composed by Matt Schatz. And just a huge thank you to all of you for joining us and watching. We're wishing you and yours a very happy holiday season from all of us here at City Theater, and look forward to seeing you virtually or sometime in person soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Claire.